All right, scene two. I made a video about a week ago talking through the first scene of my short animation, short mixed media animation called The Drive-In. Just wanted to make another one breaking down the second scene. So I think I'll probably play a video of what the scene looked like first before this, but I just wanted to first kind of break down the actual scene, the shot itself. This is the original look of it. And you can see if you watch the animation really closely, the first part of the animation when the van pulls up, there's no Coke bottle and there's a couple things that are missing. And I had to take those out for the animation to actually render because the iPad that I was using was an older iPad and it couldn't hold the whole project and it wouldn't render out the project. So I had to cut those things out. But besides that, the scene is pretty straightforward. It's actually just a single shot, and that's this image here. And I think if maybe if I okay, here we go. If I this is the original picture, so this is kind of the only scene and only image really background that was just one location. Most of all the other scenes were broken in, and had all different types of mountains and whatnot. But this, I believe, this is just a shot from Yosemite, the climbing wall. What's it called? El Cap. Yeah, I think maybe I don't know. I think this is El Cap. Anyways, the prompt for the whole animation was to have these places that seem very Montana-esque, as the film society that hired me out to do this was in Montana. So, but this is obviously not in Montana, but it still follows the mountains, the trees, the nature scene of it. But anyways, this is what the original image looked like, and this was it. So when you go back to what it looked like, you can kind of see everything that got added. The first thing is that orange hue. And that was just to make everything cohesive. I did that with a lot of the shots, but it was and I probably should have done these things in post production, but I added it onto here just to see what it looked like, and it's all it is a an orange overlay at like 10%, and then this kind of light source as well. So that's all that is, to just add this yellowish tint. I thought it drew it together, made it a little more dreamy. And then obviously the popcorn and the sign. There's a Coke bottle on the back. I won't really talk too much on that because it got cut from the full animation. But as for the popcorn, that's just, I threw that in there as some type of fun way to tie the animation back into the drive-in roots and give the place a little bit more visually interesting items. And it really wasn't that hard. All you can kind of see down in here, it's not a beautiful cut job. And I've learned a lot since then. But really, all it consists of is this piece of background here. Let me see if I can turn these off. Maybe. Anyways, yeah, this piece of grass, which is not even an overlay, it's just cut straight from there, and place it in front of the popcorn. So without that, all you have is this just sitting on top of there like that, and doesn't really sell anything. So you just cut it out and place it back on top, and with a little shadowing. And I learned that with the shadowing, it helped tie so many of the pieces together to have a consistent light source, because the animation is cut out, or the animation consists of a bunch of different images cut out, they tend to have varying light sources. So if you can control any of that in any way, it helps tie the piece together so much. Okay, the second thing before I jump into the animation side of the project, I wanted to talk about this character because he was probably the most fun I had when designing the character, and I think it really did turn out in a good way. This, there's looking back on everything, there's so many small things that I could have probably spent more time if I had it, but the project and all took way longer than expected, and it was so much learning, so it kind of just had to get out anyways. But anyway, for the characters, all they were same collage style, and just had a ton of fun with building out the faces. And so you can see here, I'll just isolate this face, and I think it consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different images. And what's super handy about having all of those on their own layer is that when you take it into Procreate Dreams and export this file as a Procreate file, you can then transfer it over, and you can animate each one of those layers separately. So it's fun to move the eyes around and move the nose, and maybe I'll show an image, or show a quick video of how to do that too, and what that looks like. But as for the choosing and what to do, I seriously just scaled all types of different free image softwares like Pexels and Unsplash, and just found stuff that I enjoyed and was fun. This character was obviously made to be more of like a hippie. I don't know what you would call it, but so I mean, I can kind of show, but the before consisted of this suit jacket here, and there was a character, and so I just isolated the different parts of the jacket, and so here's a pant leg, and just added hues to those, and then cut out the jacket portion, and gave an overlay of this flower pattern, and then for the shoes, just cut those and place them behind. Same for the hat. I just found an image of a hat and cut that out. I wish I had all the original files of the cutouts, but I mean, all it was just a face and a head, and a hat from a random image that I found online for free, and then put together the face. And then you can see for the skin, I left the skin out because having collage images of skin does not look right. And so you'll see for all the other characters that I made, it's just, I used, I don't even remember what brush it was, one of the painting. I think it was this one here, Nico Roll. And did add a layer here. Just kind of did stuff like this, and then would find different hues and keep mixing them together constantly. And then you can even smudge it if you want. But and so that's all the skin was. But yeah, and like I said, and then I just exported it as a Procreate file so that I was able to manipulate all of those different parts of the body, and almost kind of rig it like you would a 3D character. But yeah. I also wanted to add really quick, because the character is seen face on, and then when he gets into the vehicle, I needed to have two different profiles for him, and so obviously they don't match up perfectly. But if I show the time lapse of it, a lot of the same. I mean, this image I found online, and he had a front face and a back face, and then just having a fun time manipulating all those things, building out an area and adding an overlay, throwing that on, painting the face, and giving them some little curls. I realized after making the recording that I could show all the image cut out, and it kind of showed that process. So I'll just let this play really quick. And I think I just messed with the hand there for a while, but oops. Yeah, so pretty simple. Okay, before I go into the shots of this scene, I wanted to just highlight this really quick. Um, to save space on the iPad, because I believe it had 64 gigabytes of storage. So the only way that I was possibly able to create all these things, because these Procreate Dreams files are pretty large. So I had an external hard drive plugged into the side of the iPad, and then I would save the file as a Procreate Dreams file, which allowed me to then go back into the shot. So we'll go here and then open that up with everything still editable without saving it and baking it in. So anyways, to kind of start off, pretty basic opening scene. The character's already in there. He's not doing anything, just a static shot. Have a couple of, butterflies and bees and stuff. And I went over the animation process of that in the first video, but just a couple of a little bit of movement in the foreground and background to add a bit of an more exciting shot. And then I think it would have been a lot of fun to play with the lighting, moving maybe around in the background. Maybe that's something to experiment with next time. But all there is in this shot is the van. The van pulls up and comes to a stop, and that's it. I think there's a little bit movement in the character here. Yeah, and subtle, but you don't really notice it, but maybe it adds a little bit. And that was how I was talking about earlier, where you can export these pieces in as a whole and then break them down and add whatever you want to. Super easy with the record tool. So yeah. Going to this shot here. This shot's just a close up to kind of break up that static of the first shot where it just drives in and that's it. Just a nice close up of the van coming to a slow roll. In the van, if you look into it, the van is separated by the tires and the body of it. And it's just translated X and Y each way. And just took my Apple Pencil and hit that record button and just kind of shook it in there. So, and then added rotation towards the end manually. And you can just put that in. So you started at 0 and say you wanted to get to, if you start at 0 here and want to get to 45, you can do that super quick. Oh, I didn't add it. Right. So one thing to note is if you have for example, if I wanted to go from 0 to 15 degrees, let's do negative 15 degrees, and I wanted to do that from here to here. If you have this might be super simple, but it took me forever to realize it will add that rotation in there for you if it's at 0. But if you record the movement and then try to add it later into it, all of those rotations are already baked in. So you have to do this separately, if that makes sense. And then you can see the wheels. Make sure I got rid of all that. But the wheels are just like this one here, starting the rotation at 0 and then at 100. So you have that slow stop, and then you can change the easing of it. I think this one is an ease out. So, but let's get rid of that rotation. And setting the easing actually came to be super helpful. And you can actually expand that and go through by each component, whatever you need to do. Most of the time, I would just collapse it and keep it set here. But that can be super helpful in saying if you do need something to come to a slow stop, or maybe you need to jump out of the start. But instead of just editing that one by one, you're able to use this quick little tool to help do that, and you can apply it to everything in the animation. The shot after that is with the character in the van, and they take off here. Maybe break down this walk really quick. So let's find him. Here we go. So you can see there's just two big move and scale points. The first one here and the second one here. And so he's basically just on a track from that point to that point with a scale down. Oops. It's from starting at 0.245 and then 0.187. So even if, I mean, if I wanted to start from the beginning where it's right here and do this long transition, you can see that that's all that's happening. And then to sell the movement a little more, because I had inserted this as a Procreate file, I was able to adjust all these things. So there's just a little bit of a head bob. So if I delete this movement, you can see it. He's just moving around to kind of sell that walk a little bit better. Same with all the clothes and whatnot too. So, and making sure that all of these things have their separate files, and then all that big movement happens when everything's together. So you aren't having to, move the pants, move the shirt, move the head on their own tracks. You can do it all together in that singular group. And then the other component of this is obviously the van shooting back. Oh, and one other thing to add is once he gets to this spot where he's walked in, it immediately cuts to that side profile that I had made so that it looks like he's sitting. And I just added one adjustment step in there before the van has a little bit of anticipation. It shoots back, have a little bit of head movement in the characters. You can see that here. So it starts to move in scale, goes back to, and then immediately takes off with a little bit of stretch in the vehicle to sell that. And the characters throw their heads back with a little delay. And then there's this sign here. And this sign gave me such a headache because initially I tried to do it using the record tool. So I would take this sign and bounce it like this, if that makes sense. And I tried for so long to do that, and it just, because the record tool, it does such a good job of bringing that organic movement of your hand, I couldn't get it to look like it was actually bouncing. And so I ended up having to enter them manually and then just adding rotation on each bounce. And I think, overall, I think it did a good job. But just another fun little thing I got added in there. So, yeah, but I think that's really all I had for this one. This wasn't a very super complex shot. I guess I can look at the this guy here, and this wasn't anything. Kind of talked about it. This is just a shot of the van coming in. You've got this repeating grass here. Super long strip, super long background, and the background is just slowly moving across as the van moves forward. and in between these trees, to kind of show entering from that scene one, where it was, the grassland with the blue skies into that foresty area. And then a little bit of shaking with our character, and he's got his hand on a steering wheel. And I think the way that I did that was, let's see. You can see here's the breakdown. I definitely used the move tool and just shook the vehicle with the corner. So it can be as aggressive as you want it to be, but and then within the vehicle we've got the character. Same deal. I just added a head bob and added him in by layer with the Procreate file. And then I added also a steering wheel hand, which is not perfect, but it just adds another, fun characteristic to the style. And it's so broken, but it's a good time. And a couple trees in the front with some blur to really sell that transition, because it was just two images merged together. But yeah, and then rotation on the tires. But that's pretty much it. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff that I could have done better. So if anybody watches this video and has suggestions or questions, but I don't think anybody's gonna watch this. So yeah, thanks.